This is Carter Hawthorne, and we're back with my personal project, building a game without using an engine. This is the final progress report for the spring quarter. So to recap, I'm making a 2D cooperative multiplayer game in Java without using a game engine, so all the architecture, assets, logic, etc. are created manually to serve as an interesting challenge and learning experience. In the previous quarter, I was focused on game setup and networking logic, so more backend stuff. Well, this term, I've been focused on UI updates with sprites and tiles and general world interactions. More front end. So, sprite animation and world screen position for both players, which was actually remarkably simple. There were just a few small tweaks I had to make sure that the players moved correctly. And then item interaction was also pretty straightforward. I just made a little basic demo with some keys and doors, but there's a lot of room for expansion and creativity. So I would say it's very rewarding to see the progress, and it's really, really coming together now. So I added an item system, so there's an item handler, and there's specific classes for each item, and item interaction changes the UI state, which we'll see in a moment. And then I recolored the player sprites. I added player 2 sprites. Sprite animations work for both players on both screens. Characters move as expected, so on your screen, on your screen, your character stays in the center, and the world moves around you as you move, while you can see the other player moving around in the world, so it moves on the screen. And then the pause input pauses the game on both sides, which was actually surprisingly complicated. Item interaction is completely functional, and there's room for more items and abilities to be added. Character sprites are also functional, but I'll build on them as I polish the game, similarly. So final coloring and design, making sure everything looks nice. NPC sprites as I add those. And the pause input works, but it's a little weird with the unpausing, and it might need to be reworked with TCP instead of UDP. Right now it sends over multiple pause inputs because it's UDP, and if the packet gets dropped, that would be bad, but it can only interact with one of those pause inputs, because if it uses all of them, then it would play and pause a bunch of times really quickly, which is not good. So reworking the networking to use TCP for important packets and then UDP in general for speed might be a better solution. So future developments, there's that TCP UDP thing. We have projectiles, custom fonts, sounds, and a lot of other avenues for creativity. Right now, the game exists as a nice sandbox that I can add features to. Everything works, it's pretty solid, and what it has, and there's a lot of space for me to add stuff. So I'm really happy to see it in this state, especially considering the amount of progress I've made from where I started, and I'm excited to continue working on it in the future. So let's take a look at some of the code. I'll just run through this really quickly. I'll show you with the game itself. That'll be a lot nicer. But just to highlight some things, we have a bunch of things. I added all of those sprite files for the animations. The ability to support 2 players instead of just one. We have solid area default versus regular solid area because for item collisions, depending on which item. We have the player 1, player 2 sprites, item interactions, and more items will be added in the future. Kind of just change some logic here. We have a quick little door item, which has collision, an item class, handles the drawing based off of its world position, a key class, no collision. We have a collision handler, which we had before, but now we also have a check item to see if we're touching an item, because depending on the item, we do different things when we're touching it. Added more of this logic and drawing stuff to the game panel. There's like the pausing thing, set paused. There's that item handler, which sets the items. A little changes in key handler again for the play pause features, and then the UI to display the keys, input packet network handler, a little bit on the tile handler because I changed the name of player 1 to local player and remote player to make it a little easier to read. So let's take a look at these. So if I run the game really quick, we can hit start server, server started. Over here we'll join. And boom, you can see that here's the player 1, he's purple, and player 2 is this kind of gold color. Very similar, the opposite smirks though. So, and you can see that key here. And now I move around, I move player 1, and player 2 sees him moving around. So you notice the player 1 on this side always stays in the center of the screen while the world moves around him. But on the other screen, player 2 is centered, and player 1 is moving, and he actually looks way faster over there. That's kind of interesting. But yeah, collisions still work. I can't walk through these. And over here, I have a little door. You can see without the key, I can't walk through this door. And I'll show you the same over here. You can see they're animated on both sides. Can't go through this door. But if I go and grab this key, now you can see it changes to key times 1. I have a key. Over on this side, still can't go through the door because he doesn't have a key. But player 2 can come over, and since I have a key, I can get through the door, which means player 1 can now also go through. And this is really cool to just see everything moving around, getting all this logic going. Your character sprite overlaps the other one, so you can always see yourself, even if they're walking over each other. You can see P1's on top on this side and underneath on the other side. And yeah, this is the game so far. This is really cool to see this demo working, and I am really excited to continue working on it in the future.